So Agriculture Minister Floyd Green's involvement with the annual general meeting of the Farmers Association seems now to have landed him in court. What happened? Thank you so much for joining me courtside. I'm Dionne Jackson-Miller. Agriculture Minister Floyd Green, two senior members of staff at the Jamaica Agricultural Society and a board member are being summoned to attend court in relation to allegations of contempt of court proceedings. Now, how did the well-respected agriculture minister, who remember is a lawyer himself, how did he wind up here? It's an interesting situation and it's been reported on from last year, but there's so much going on that it's kind of hard to piece together. So I've gone through all the reports and put them together in a format that I think you can understand in a kind of chronological sequence, all right? So let's look at what's been reported. First of all, it's entirely normal for the agriculture minister to go to meetings of the Jamaica Agricultural Society, the AGMs. Here he is in 2019, presumably in happier times. So the Gleaner said that Lawrence Larry Robertson, who is the parish president of the Jamaica Agricultural Society for Portland and also a board member, that he went to court in 2023 and he asked the court for a declaration that the annual general meeting of the JAS is null and void without presentation of the audited financial statements of the association, along with funds held on behalf of the society by the parish branches which have not been paid over to the JAS. So he wants the court to say the annual general meeting wouldn't be valid without the audited financial statements. You know, on the surface of it, it doesn't seem like an unreasonable position. Most organizations require that audited financial statements be presented at the AGM because, members want to know what go on with the money, where the money go, what to do with the money. So in July 2023, the court granted Mr. Robertson an interim injunction, we're told, to stop the association, the society, I should say, from having its annual general meeting. And the idea here is that until the court decides on the main issue, the issue of holding the AGM without the audited financial statements, that the interim injunction now kind of holds things in place so that nothing changes until that main issue has been decided. Except things then got a little bit strange. And why do I say that? Well, the Gleaner also reported that the Jamaica Agricultural Society hadn't filed any court documents in response to the documents that had been filed by Mr. Robertson, and that in April 2024, the court had said, well, in that case, the interim injunction should remain in place. And then that was said again by the court, according to the Gleaner, on May 14. In addition, we heard that there was a date that the first hearing of the claim had been set for September 19. But wait, in the meantime, the Jamaica Agricultural Society had told its members there would be an annual general meeting on July 10. And the reason I'm saying things were a little bit strange is that how is it an AGM is being advertised and being held while there's a court order, we're told, in place preventing the AGM from being held? Apparently, it's not as straightforward as it sounds, and different people are saying different things, and different court orders may be saying different things. I don't know. So here's what the Gleaner reported again. The Gleaner reported that attorney Hugh Wildman, who is representing Mr. Robertson in this matter, wrote to the minister on June 26 telling him about the injunction. In addition, on July 2, Mr. Robertson is said to have told board members through their WhatsApp group and that he put a copy of the formal court order in the WhatsApp group, and one of the defendants in the matter, Mr. Hall, reportedly responded by saying rubbish. On July 8 now, the minister reportedly wrote to the JAS and the board and said despite what was going on, the AGM was going to go ahead on July 10. The AGM was held and a new president was elected, Owen Dobson, who was formerly a vice president. And the minister spoke at the AGM. Now, next thing we heard, again, Mr. Wildman, attorney Hugh Wildman, who is representing, remember, Mr. Robertson, said that contempt of court proceedings were going to be brought against the minister and senior members of the Jamaica Agricultural Society because he said they were disobeying or they had disobeyed an order of the Supreme Court. According to Mr. Wildman, the minister, by being an attorney at law, is an officer of the court and should not be seen to be flouting an injunction issued by the court. Now, the agriculture minister, Mr. Green, hasn't publicly commented on the issue, but the ministry seems to be taking the position that the minister didn't do anything wrong. Why do I say that? Well, Radio Jamaica News reported that a letter had been sent to board members on June 3, signed by the minister, saying that the ministry lawyers had reviewed the court document and decided that the interim injunction didn't have anything to do, or didn't have any bearing, I should say, on the intended annual general meeting for the 2024 elections. The lawyers apparently determined that the injunction related specifically to some decisions that had been made by the board in July 2023. And they also said that if the AGM wasn't held, that in fact could give rise to contempt of court proceedings, because there was an order that had been made by the court on May 9 that said the JAS should hold its AGM in July this year in accordance with its bylaws and the JAS Incorporation Act. So we're hearing of one court order that said no AGM. We're hearing of another court order that said AGM. So which is it? I don't know. Looking forward to seeing the court, get all the documents before it and figure out exactly what's going on. Now, according to the Business Observer, on July 8, the minister had reportedly written a letter giving instructions to the staff of the JS, with instructions that were different from what the president or the CEO had said. And Mr. Fulton told the Observer that the minister does not have the authority to interfere with the operations of the JS in that way. And he said this was the first time in Jamaica's history that a minister had gone over the heads of the organization in that way. Now, in the meantime, the Agriculture Ministry is saying it's going to strongly and vigorously defend any legal action that's taken against the ministry or against the minister. They said they've taken note of what they're calling misleading comments made by Mr. Wildman as well as Mr. Fulton in relation to the legality of the annual general meeting, and comments that were made about the minister. And they say the ministry and the minister are seeking further legal advice. They're also saying Mr. Fulton had told the ministry about the July 10 AGM and had invited the minister to come and talk. They also said they don't have any order saying that there should be no AGM, but they said they do have an order that said the JAS undertook to hold the annual general meeting in accordance with its bylaws. So, as I said, whole heap to sort out there. Looking forward to hear what a judge says when all this comes before him or her. But just to make a note, I mentioned financials earlier, and money seems to be a big issue here. The Business Observer says this relates to a financial dispute involving the JS's inability to account for significant funds. The most recent audit revealed about $10.52 million in unaccounted funds over the 4-year period from 2019 to 2023. And the president, Mr. Fulton, had said the amount may now exceed $50 million. He said this is not necessarily a case of theft. He said rather it's a case of sufficient documentation to prove accountability. But he said it's put the society in a very troubling position. A membership organization that cannot account for its members' money because the money belongs to the farmers. Now, since a lot of organizational infighting can be about leadership, I should say Mr. Fulton has said he has no interest in continuing as president of the Jamaica Agricultural Society. He's called the organization toxic. He told the Observer, I'm not the type of person who will stay in a toxic environment where people might be collecting money for our farmers and cannot account for it, and are so audacious as to break the law to cover up their actions. He said, I'm not a part of it. So what happens now? Well, I don't know. I'll certainly be monitoring the story though, and I'll keep you posted. I should say there might be a whole separate discussion on the independence or lack of independence of the Jamaica Agricultural Society from the government, because I think a members organization that's supposed to be lobbying for its members should have some distance from the government, and I'm not seeing a whole lot of distance and independence here, right? But that's a discussion for another day. Have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining me courtside. I'm Dionne. I'll see you next time.